What's going on, everybody? It's SJG, and welcome to I don't know if you call this, I guess you would call it breaking news or just an impromptu episode of HBCU Game Day. I want to appreciate everybody for hopping on. I know this is kind of short notice, but had some news that came out today, and wanted to give some context to it. So give a couple seconds. But in the meantime, if you guys are watching this on the replay, please be sure to make sure that you guys subscribe to the channel. If you are subscribed already, please make sure you guys hit those notifications as well. And in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on the news of the day, the Buddy Pough situation, as well as anything else, and any questions I'll try to ask at the end. I'll answer at the end. So again, the reason that we're on right now is Buddy Pough over at South Carolina State. As everyone knows, he announced prior to the season that the 2023 season will be his last one. We saw last week, for those of us, most folks saw it on TV, but folks like me, I was there in Durham as South Carolina State took on North Carolina Central, and it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty for South Carolina State. So they get a week off. Homecoming is this week. They got to face a tough Howard team, so that's already, if that isn't already enough going on and enough pressure and enough of just with everything else that's going on, the distractions. Well, now South Carolina State has just parted ways with its interim AD, Keisha Campbell. She has, and I'm sorry, Ms. Campbell was not the interim AD, she was the acting AD. So let's go back just a little bit. Back in 2022, the AD was Stacey Danley. He was there for, quite a while. He ended up, being let go last year around July, August. Drum major SCSU. That's been a tough time in Bulldog land since then. So in comes Keisha Campbell. Now, Keisha is a Hall of Fame basketball player at South Carolina State. She really was out there getting those buckets. I was able to see some of the stats and everything she had when she was in school. So she's a really a great athlete. She's become an administrator. She's worked at the CIAA, Hampton University, among other places. So she's got a lot of experiences, and she's no rookie in this. So she took over the program as the acting AD. That was her title. I know I saw on some news outlets they had her as the interim AD, but she was the acting AD. So, she's been in that role. She's had to make some decisions. She made the decision with, as far as football scheduling. She made the decision about choosing to play Florida A&M in 2024, I believe it is. When they'll have that game. A lot of people thought that game was going to be on the books this year. It wasn't on the books. So she's come in and from all accounts, she's done a lot of cleaning up for the program of things that were going on there. So she walks into this, and then we get to this year. Throughout this entire time, she's the acting AD. So she was never the permanent AD. And then obviously we get to August of this year, right before the MEAC-SWAC challenge. And Buddy Pough announces that he's going to be leaving South Carolina State in his role as head coach. He's been a part of this program. He's been a part of the South Carolina State Bulldog family since 1971, the first year of the MEAC. That's when he came in as a freshman, as an offensive lineman. And so, he loves this program. He's given his blood, sweat, and tears to it as a player, as an assistant coach, and now as a head coach for over 2 decades. Place where they've had a lot of stability. Prior to him, the head coach was Willie Jeffries, who was a Hall of Fame coach in his own right. And Coach Pough managed to somehow surpass him. But if you look at the history of South Carolina State, and I would encourage everybody to go to the article on HBCUGameDay.com, where I really go in depth as far as how South Carolina State over the last 50 years has probably been, or it has been, by all accounts, the most consistent coaching job when it comes to HBCUs in the last 50 years. Even if you think about Grambling State, they had Eddie Robinson, then they had Doug Williams, then they had Melvin Spears, then Eddie Robinson came back, and then Broderick Fobbs, and now they've got Hugh Jackson. Well, South Carolina State, that list is even smaller. Jeffries was there for 7 years, had a lot of success, went to Wichita State. Bill Davis came in, won some playoff games. They ran him off. Then comes Dr. Dennis Thomas, and he gets his stint as a young assistant from Alcorn State. And then back comes Jeffries. He leads the team back again through the 90s into the 2000s, and then comes Buddy Pough. So you're talking about five. You're talking about a total of 4 men and 5 coaching stints over 50 years. So that's the type of stability that they've had at South Carolina State. So I asked Coach Pough a little bit earlier this week, just looking ahead about what he wanted or what he thought about his successor, especially since they've kind of spoiled folks. So I'll play that, and then if you guys have any questions, make sure you guys hop in the comments. Let us know, who you're representing, who you're watching, and what your thoughts are about Coach Buddy Pough having to take on this role as interim AD. We're going to talk about the search a little bit after Coach Pough.
Fine, Stephen. How are you?
Doing amazing. Just piggyback. Obviously, you got, like you said, you guys are trying to finish the season strong. When it comes, you're going to be a tough act to follow. The next head coach, is going to be coming behind not only you, but also, as you say, Coach Jeffries as well. Just talk about, if you've thought about the challenges that await them on trying to succeed someone as successful as you and your predecessor. And maybe you guys have spoiled those fans there over at Pittsburgh.
We kind of like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Whoever gets the job, we expect him to have a job for at least 10, 15 years. One of those Mike Tomlin and rest of those guys kind of deal. So we like to think that we are a stable kind of operation where you get in here and we support you, and we really get an established program going in a direction that you can, build something really special. So hopefully we can find a guy. I think they'll find somebody to come in here and continue the legacy.
And that was Coach Pough on Monday. Now I'll say, I've been talking to folks, just obviously this search is something that doesn't come along every time. Again, it doesn't come along often. Coach Pough's been there for 22 years. And so obviously, and HBCUs, every HBCU is different. Every HBCU's process is different. So I wanted to kind of know how South Carolina State was planning on doing it. I thought it was great that Coach Pough gave them, pretty much the entire season to get their ducks in a row. And so, the information I got, they hired Renaissance, the same firm that did the hire for Morgan State, of their AD, as well as Coach Damon Wilson. I see MEAC Mike in here. So Renaissance are the folks that did that. And they've done some other searches as well, a Black-owned firm. So they have been contacted to do the search. But from what I'm understanding, the search kind of slowed down at a certain point. And so it's really been, from my understanding, in the hands of President Conyers. He's really kind of he's kind of calling the shots. So when we get, AD Campbell, leaving, ideally you like to have that type of alignment between your president, who's at the top of the chart everywhere, your AD, who's in charge, who's basically the president of the athletic department, and then you like to have your head coach. You like to have them all in alignment, and anytime that you get them out of it, it can definitely be a sticky situation. Just, it may not always be optimal. So you kind of want them to be aligned together. And so now we're going into a situation where we are now November 1st is today. My birthday is tomorrow, by the way. I'm just throwing it out there for you guys. But anyway, we're into November with the loss to North Carolina Central. In the words of Denise Williams, it's going to take a miracle for South Carolina State, even if they went out, to get into the Celebration Bowl. So Coach Buddy Pough's last game will be November 18th, unless that miracle happens. Coincidentally, Coach Jeffries' last game was against Norfolk State as well. His was at home back in 2001. He gave South Carolina State a runway as well. So in any case, we're coming to the end of the Buddy Pough football coaching era. We don't have an AD at this point, and it's homecoming this weekend. So obviously, a lot of the talk is going to be, whether about the future. And, when you go talk about the future and you talk about this coaching search, I think everybody would be burying our head in the sand if we didn't ignore that perhaps the most talked about potential successor to Buddy Pough is not in the Bulldog family. It is right down the road. He is right down the road, though, in Columbia, South Carolina. And of course, I'm talking about Chinnis Berry. He is taking Benedict College in 3 years and really turned them into a Division II powerhouse. They got a big game against Allen, talking about that South Carolina area this week. And then they're probably going to go into the SIC championship game and then go to the playoffs as well. So, obviously he's a name that's been out there. From what I understand, I did talk to, some coaches who had interest in the job, but everybody pretty much feels like it's Chinnis Berry's job to turn down or accept. So, with that being said, if you're Chinnis Berry and you see the instability that's going on over there at South Carolina State, I mean, everybody, obviously D1 and D2 is, considered a move up and everything like that. But, he may have, there's also considerations, that he may have other opportunities as well. So it's going to be very interesting as we go down as November, we're just at the start of it, but as it winds down, because not only, do you have the program and the future of the program at stake, we also now have the transfer portal, right? That's a real thing. And South Carolina State, you could see it on Thursday, even though they got beaten pretty soundly, they have some talent. They got a guy named Jawan Howell right from my backyard in Mooresville, North Carolina, that's really talented. They got some FBS level talent on that team, as Coach Pough has always kept. And so it's going to be essential for them. They're going to be having to look at their futures as well. They're going to be looking at the front door. They're going to have offers. And if there's not someone in place that they can say, okay, this is who's going to be leading the program, that makes it just that much easier to take that step to somewhere else. And then, not only that, of course, now we live in a world where, there is the early signing period and the late signing period. And the early signing period, huge for FBS, but if you're FCS, you want to get those guys as well. So it's important. Not quite as important at the FCS level, but it still is. We see some folks, Drum Major SCSU says they have faith in President Conyers. He's going to right the ship. And that may be true. That may be true. But I think, presidents in athletics, and presidents that are heavily involved in athletics can be a great thing, but it also can be something that is maybe not healthy long term for the strength of your program. If you're going to have an athletic director, they're going to come in already knowing that this is who the president wants, and they're going to have to live with that, good, bad, or indifferent. That's who the president wants, and how much power do you really have, or are you a figurehead? Again, I think I think the thing about it is, and I know someone pointed out homecoming. I think sometimes, unfortunately, it may not be the most fun thing to hear, but sometimes, we got to shake things up. You got to wake them up. And there's no bigger shakeup in HBCU sports than to do something on homecoming. We remember a couple years ago where Earl Holmes was the head coach at Florida A&M, and they canned him at homecoming, and so that created a whole thing. So he is the interim AD according to the reports. He's been chosen as the interim AD again, as he is the head coach, as he's in the middle of the season, as he's in the middle of his last season. So you wonder, is he a figurehead at this point? I mean, you guys are all smart. You're college graduates or consumers of college sports, and you'd be smart enough to figure out whether, really what's going on there. Of course, again, having a president involved in athletics is good. You want them to be engaged, but sometimes there's that fine line between engagement and micromanaging and having a solid system in place. You want them to be able to believe in the people that they have hired. So it's going to be very, very interesting. Again, South Carolina State is going to be taking on Howard University, a very good Howard University team, a Howard University team that beat them last year. They're coming into Orangeburg. So it's going to be very interesting moving forward. So a lot of questions to be answered at South Carolina State University as we go on. And again, I don't want to drag this on too long, but if you guys have any questions regarding this or anything else that's going on at HBCU sports, I'm free to kick around for a while, a little bit. But again, the news of the day, South Carolina State acting AD Keisha Campbell has resigned her post as the acting AD. She was the acting AD for 15 months. From what I understand, there were contract negotiations. Those obviously those weren't eye to eye, and then there were also some things beyond athletics that were beyond the money. That went into this as well. So it's going to be very interesting. Again, moving forward, South Carolina State, they've had issues as an institution over the last decade or so. I mean, who amongst us hasn't? But they are, obviously the only state public HBCU in South Carolina, and they're continuing to try to gain some momentum. And obviously, their football program has been their calling card. They just won the Celebration Bowl in 2021, but Coach Pough, just like his predecessors, have put so many guys into the NFL. So, he's very well respected, and so it's definitely going to be interesting to see moving on. But I don't want to take up too much time. Again, we'll see what happens with South Carolina State. Of course, they got a couple more weeks left in their season. Coach Pough he says he's retiring. He's reiterated that. So, will Chennis Berry, will he take the job if it is truly his to have? That remains to be seen. If not, there are going to be some coaches that are going to be in there as well. And then at some point, they're going to have to stabilize their athletic department. No athletic department has ever been able to do anything consistent or stable with an interim or acting AD, especially when you have it for that long. So I appreciate everybody for hopping on. This was quick and impromptu. And again, I knew that things were going down, so I was getting my notes together, going back through the history of South Carolina State University, doing my journalistic integrity, and luckily I already had a good bit of this written, so I was able to kind of put it together quickly. But I know the headlines are out there; you can see those headlines anywhere. But this was a case where we dug a little bit deeper. So we appreciate everybody who goes on to the website hbcugameday.com, as well as all our subscribers here. Please continue to do that; it's so important. We always hear from folks that don't like some of the things that we report on, or some of the things that, that are out there. But, you guys, the viewer, in mass numbers, you guys kind of really determine what we can focus our time and energy on. So we'll continue to keep up with what's going on in South Carolina State University. South Jackson State is still good for the future of the SWAC. I mean, hey, we're, for sure you guys are still keeping it together. You guys are about where I thought you guys would be this year. I know, again, Coach Taylor has done a really great job of, coming in with a whole new cast of characters and implementing who he wants to be, and who he wants his staff to be. I think it's pretty interesting, though. I think a lot of us saw this coming at the beginning of the season. We figured they would be good, but there would be some bumps in the road. A lot of folks from Jackson State told folks that they were hating because we didn't think that they were going to run through the SWAC again. But now some of those same folks are also telling us that, 6-3 for a first-year head coach is a good record, which kind of is what we were saying. Anyway, it's going to be great. We got a great week of HBCU football coming up. On the MEAC side, nothing's been decided yet. North Carolina Central still looks like the top dogs there, in the words of our friend Josh Sims. But Howard University, they're also unbeaten as well. So they'll look to continue that against Coach Buddy Pough and his program. Morgan State, they'll look to continue to fight on. Norfolk State, two close calls. And from there, then you've got the SWAC, where we got the East already taken care of. And then we'll see what happens out in the Wild Wild West. And of course, the real action, though, I'm telling you guys all year, has been in the D2 sphere, especially in the SIC. It's going to come down to a great weekend. We'll talk about all that later tonight. Myself and Kendrick and Chris on the D2 HBCU Football Matters show, which I really appreciate all you guys for. All right, look, okay, let's tackle this one. It's time for the SWAC MEAC to merge with Super Conference. Southbound, all due respect, no, it's not. It's not. I know it sounds good. It sounds like it's the sexy thing to do. Coach Prime brought it up. He got some immediate pushback from the MEAC, but he's obviously not the first person. And I have some historical records to show that there have been times where this has been on the table, but as has been discussed at length on Twitter and a lot of really good responses to that, when you say that, the only way you would say that is if you're thinking solely about football, which I get it. Football is major. Football is the thing that everybody looks for. I really wish HBCU basketball, men's and women's, got more love, especially on the Division I side. On the D2 side, I think they get a lot of love, but there's so many more sports and there's so much more that goes into it than football. You know, you look at basketball, you're looking at going from 2 bids for HBCUs to 1. That means, and the units that the NCAA is using aren't going to change. So basically, you would be shortchanging every HBCU athletic department. And you know, if you look at the history actually of HBCUs and going Division I, that was the big thing. That was the reason they went Division I, is because they were going to try to get onto that NCAA TV money. Obviously, now we can get big paydays and things like that with PWIs and Power Fives, but that's the genesis of it. So you're always going to have basketball as a consideration, men's and women's, and then you just got all your other sports. And I know, you know, people want to talk about how you could put divisions together and everything. It's just, you know, those are 2 leagues with 2 distinct cultures, and it sounds good, but it's a no for me. But anyway, I appreciate you guys for hopping on. If you guys like these, let us know in the comments. We'll try to do a little bit more of these as breaking news happens. Again, if you guys don't know, Buddy Pough is now the interim AD as he's getting ready to be on his way out. South Carolina State, they've got some remodeling to do in their athletic house in a major way. So appreciate everybody for checking us out. Make sure you guys check out D2 HBCU Matters, and I appreciate you guys. Catch you later. Peace.